بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وألحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. My dear respected brothers and sisters, inshallah we start with a new series. As you can see from the title, it relates to the Quran. But maybe the first question that may be coming to people's minds, and even if it's not, this should be a question that has gone through my mind and something that I should be able to answer, is what is the purpose of this series? Why are we now doing a series about the Quran when there's a lot of information out there, a lot of recordings out there, a lot of writings out there? What is it that is going to be different compared to what's out there, or what is not out there that is that this series is going to fill that gap? This is a question that must be asked. First of all, if one was to be purposeful, and if one was to be sincere in wanting to talk about the Quran, it's important that he is very, very conscious and also working towards what the aim of the Quran is. Now, we know from Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter number 2, verse number 2, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the Quran as guidance for those who are mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or those who are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, this is the end result of the Quran, that it's the guidance that it teaches us converts into a reality in every person. And this is what we mean by defining to refining. Defining, it starts by understanding what the verse means, what's intended from the verse, but then the process has to continue, and this is inshallah what will happen during this series. In every verse and every surah that we talk about, it will go through a process from understanding the verse and defining the verse and understanding what's expected from it, to how we can actually implement this in our everyday life. So it's not talking about the Quran as a standalone thing, because we have many books of tafsir that do this. But the idea is that this series is that bridge. It's able to bridge, inshallah, people to go through that process of being able to change with the Quran. Now that's very, very important, because like I say, that is the ultimate aim of the Quran. Everything else is a process and a means to that. So reading the Quran, pondering the Quran, understanding the Quran, reading the translations or the interpretations of the Quran, the tafsir, all of this is a means to actually implementing the teachings of the Quran and being characterized with the Quran, or what they say is the manifestation of the Quran. What do we mean by manifestation? And inshallah, I will be very cautious about using terminologies and things, and we'll just have a very we use quite basic terminologies, inshallah, as much as possible, just so that everyone can inshallah benefit from. But if I need to, because it's a word that has more meaning to it and it's more relevant to what we're talking about, inshallah I'll mention it, but I'll try and explain as well what the term means. So when we talk about manifestation, what do we mean by manifestation? When let's take a small example first. When we talk, for example, to our children about doing good or doing bad, or not doing this or not doing that, it's not just piece of information in their mind to know that this is right, we need to do, and this is wrong, that we should not be doing. It's not just information. It's not just an FYI, for your information, this is not the right thing to do and this is what we should be doing. The idea of telling them or guiding them or explaining to them or whatever it is, the idea is that this is manifested in their character, that they do their part, that their character or this principle or this right thing that should be is something that is embedded into their character. This is how they conduct themselves. This is how their conduct should be, but not conduct through just actions, because someone can have a good conduct, but that is an act of good conduct. It's not necessarily a characteristic which is embedded in a person. But when we say that we want to refine from defining to refining, then we're talking about being characterized with the teachings of the Quran. It is embedded in our character. So our mind and our heart and our vision and our actions and our conduct and our perception of life and our perception of the religion and our mannerisms and our principles, everything about the person, everything about the person's structure is in line with the teachings of the Quran. This is why the Prophet ﷺ says, the meaning of the hadith, that you will not be a Muslim, meaning you will not be a believer, meaning you will not be a complete believer until your desires are along with the desire of what the Prophet ﷺ has been sent with. In other words, with the religion. So when someone's self, his heart, his mind, everything becomes so harmonious with the teachings of the Quran, it's as if the person has no desire but the desire to be in accordance with the Quran and the Sunnah. It's as if the person doesn't have a will. His only will is to be characterized with the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah. And there's a lot more meaning to that, but we'll keep it at that, because as we go through the verses, inshallah, many verses, of course, inshallah, if Allah allows us and gives us life, we will see how there are many things that help us develop as individuals in our mindset, in our heart condition, in our actions, in the way that we perceive things, in our principles, in our priorities, many things that we will go over, inshallah. It's not to say that we're going to indulge into so much detail and so much elaboration. That is not the intention, inshallah, from these recordings. And you'll see, inshallah, that you'll see this especially when we start talking about the first chapter, Surah Al-Fatiha, inshallah, you'll see that there's a certain methodology that we're adopting. And methodology meaning a certain approach, a certain way of how we want to grasp the meaning of the verses, go through that process to allow the listener to understand, how can I now change with this verse? I've understood the verse, I now understand how I can change with it, then I've got something that I can go away now and it can change me. This is very important because, like I say, we're not going to elaborate on the verses. We're not going to go into any linguistic details or elaborate on what the scholars of tafsir have said about this verse. This is not what the intention is from these recordings. Basically, this recording, every verse we have, we will talk about obviously the verse. We will see what meaning there is, what it means, but we will also take from it. We will take from it what the practical thing there is. Or, sorry, let me say what there is practically for me to take, and how we're going to actually take it and embed it into our life and instill it into our character. That's basically what we will be doing, inshallah. Now, there's something important we need to touch on here, is we are not opening the Quran and just looking at the verses and taking from the verses whatever meaning I think there is, or whatever meaning that comes to my mind, or any feeling that comes to my heart when reading these verses. This is not the right approach. This is not how we approach the Quran. Taking the meaning direct from the Quran and extracting the understanding, or extracting the rulings, or extracting whatever lessons there are, this is the work of the scholars of tafsir, and it has to remain the work of the scholars of tafsir, or anyone that is qualified to the same level that is required for someone to extract these things from the Quran. The reason why I say that is, this is not about the person speaking to you. This is not about anyone who has just any ideas that come to their mind when they're reading the Quran. This is about following the right way of going through the door of tafsirs, the scholars, and what they've said about the verses of the Quran. Even if there is a certain understanding that might come to mind when someone reads the Quran, it's important that he does not go back to the tafsirs, or the books of explanation of the Quran, to try and find something that is close to what he has understood, or what he has grasped from the reading from the Quran, and try to make it as if the Quran actually mentioned that, or make it as if that the scholars actually extracted that from the Quran. That is a very dangerous path to go down. And it's very easy to go down that path and start to create lies about the Quran, intentionally or unintentionally, because I understood this verse, I got this certain meaning or certain understanding from the verse, and I love it so much, I'm so fond of it, it sounds so nice, it's so meaningful, it can change people. That doesn't change anything. We still go through the door of the scholars of tafsir. So the reason why I say that is, we will be in any verse we will be starting from the scholars of the tafsirs and the books of tafsir. We will understand what the verse is according to the scholars, the works of the scholars. Then what we will do, and this is the end result of what this recordings or what this series is, inshallah, looking to present to the person listening. What the end result will then be is, how can this be presented to the person that's listening in a way that they can understand it easily, they can grasp it easily, it can have a deep impact on their mind and their understanding, and they understand how they can practice it and bring it into practicality in their life. That's all that this series is mainly about. So it's as if simplifying the understanding of the verse, presenting it in a simple way, but also presenting with it the understanding in the practical understanding of it, not just the standalone understanding of it, but the practical understanding of the verse. How is it there to serve something? How is it there to refine us? How is it there to develop something in us? How is it there to purify something in us? How is it there to advance our intellect and our understanding of matters, and understanding of life, and understanding of religion, or understanding of experiences that we have in life, or understanding of the ways of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what they call in Arabic Sunan Allah, the universal laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All of these things we will present it in a basic way, but in a profound way, inshallah. That doesn't mean that it's going to be profound and it's going to be difficult, it's going to be complicated. No, it's inshallah, it's going to be in a way that anyone can inshallah understand, in a practical way, and then they can go off inshallah and implement it inshallah in their life. And this is how inshallah we can change with the Quran bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We start inshallah with Surah Al-Fatiha next, and then inshallah we will go to Juz' Amma, to the end of the Quran, starting with the chapter 114, and then work our way up inshallah ta'ala. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin.